I think we all should be populists to some extent. And tonight, I would like to share why. I don't think populism is good. Although there is some disagreement about what exactly should count as populism, I think we all tend to agree that it's something we want to have less of in our world. Populists make unrealistic, sometimes even radical statements. They distort facts, spread fake news, and might even lie. Nevertheless, populism seems to be everywhere these days. We see it in our newspapers, on TV, in our Facebook and especially Twitter feeds. If populism is that widespread, populists must be doing something right. Although they tend to be weak on reasoning, facts, and realistic propositions, populists get their messages across. They are great communicators. And if we want to beat great communicators, bare facts, dry statistics, and political theory will not be enough. Because in order to be successful, our messages, our communication must be as strong as theirs. In order to beat populism, in order to fight populism, we must learn from populists. We must become a little populist ourselves. We must become positive populists. You might say, this sounds a little bit like one of those crazy ideas students are having when they are sitting in the university library procrastinating. And I must admit, that's actually exactly what it is. About 2 years ago, two of my best friends and I felt, after the shock of the vote on Brexit, felt that we should become active. We thought, if all that anti-European populism prior to the vote on Brexit was so successful, why can't we spread messages exactly as populist as theirs, but pro-European? So, while I should really have been studying for what turned out to be the worst exam of my studies, we set up a Facebook and a Twitter page and started sharing advantages of European integration and of the European Union, one-liners in square pictures, just as populists would probably do it. We called our project Why Europe? And somehow all this escalated quite quickly, and this is us now, 2 years later, with a team of 30 members in 10 European countries. But how exactly do we communicate as positive populists? We find that there are 3 major characteristics of how populists communicate that we stole from them, combined those with a pro-European narrative, and used it against them. First, populism is simple. We all like simple messages, don't we? I still remember those moments as a child when I was sitting in front of my plate and my big chunks of broccoli in front of me, and I was not willing to eat those until usually my mom came and cut those chunks into small pieces. I think the same goes for messages. Yes, sometimes it might be more difficult to break down political messages compared to broccoli, but in both cases, we're taking something big and breaking it down into small, easily digestible pieces. This is how the European Union communicates that we have free movement between many European member states. They need 790 words for that on their website. So that's a pretty huge chunk of broccoli right there. What we're doing with Why Europe is taking that text and reducing it to one single sentence. In Europe, you can travel, live in every country without border controls. And this is how populism makes messages simple. Secondly, populism is personal. How much time of your holidays are you spending on evaluating the up and downsides of a European digital single market of mobile service providers? And how much time on being happy about calling your boy or girlfriend without having to pay roaming charges? How many times each day are you thinking about how the European Schengen Agreement benefits long-term cross-border relationships? And how many times are you thinking about sex? Only few of us are thinking about politics all day. But everyone nearly always cares about politics if it affects them personally. And populists are doing a great job in relating topics to individuals. The strongest messages of, say, right-wing populists are not about economic evaluations or social implications of immigration, but about you being attacked, being raped by an immigrant, or your job being taken away by them. I'm not saying that these messages are good. I'm saying that they're strong. Strong because they're personal. Positive populism means not to communicate a political concept, not to communicate what the EU does or what a government does. It means to communicate how it affects us, how it makes us feel. Let's focus on people, not politics. Coming back to our example of communicating free movement in Europe, that's our sentence. And this is how positive populism makes it personal. We all have better things to do than waiting at borders. Thirdly, populists make their messages even stronger by appealing to emotions, often appealing to fear and anger. But I'm convinced that we can do the same with positive emotions. And a great way of adding emotions to a message are pictures. So let's take our example and add a few pictures to it. And this is how positive populism makes messages emotional. There's one thing I want to make very clear. Positive populism is about communication. Please don't walk out of here tonight and think you must become a real populist. I don't want anyone to use simplistic reasoning behind our arguments. We should never do that. We should never ignore facts, never abandon science. We should study the evidence, form our own opinions, and as a last step, we can use positive populism to make ourselves heard. Populists often turn emotions into facts. But with positive populism, I'm suggesting the opposite. Let's turn facts into emotions. I think it's time for me to talk a bit about what positive populism can achieve, apart from some colorful pictures. Tonight, I don't want to talk about our online reach, our number of followers or likes. Instead, I would like to share the two moments that were the most impressive during my time with Why Europe and really showed and conveyed the power of positive populism to me personally. About a year ago, I read an interview in a German newspaper with a dad who had started to organize pro-European demonstrations. Being asked why he did that, he replied he had seen some picture online stating, "Dad, what did you do for Europe?" And that's what made him become active for the future of his children. Just a few weeks earlier, I had created and posted this exact picture online. I've never met the man, but until today, I remember reading this article and being both speechless and grateful for this dad's reaction to this picture. The second moment was close to the Dutch elections last year. We feared that Eurosceptics could move the Netherlands to a situation close to a second Brexit. So we wanted to send a pro-European message to the Dutch. But how do we make people care about the election in another country? We took a simple, personal, and emotional situation we all can probably and unfortunately relate to. A breakup. More specifically, the point at which you see that your relationship is falling apart, but you still have feelings, and you still hope you can work it out. So you sit down together and talk. And the main message you want to convey during that conversation is stay with me. And that's exactly the message we sent to the Dutch. We made pictures saying "Stay with us," in Dutch, "Blijf bij ons," translated it into many European languages with nice pictures in the background. And the initiative Pulse of Europe printed those pictures and distributed them at many demonstrations. I was really happy seeing those pictures being distributed at a demonstration in Frankfurt. I was incredibly impressed seeing the slogan "Blijf bij ons" being shown in front of the cathedral in Cologne. But what left me speechless once again was just a few days before the actual election should take place in Amsterdam at a pro-European demonstration. Knowing that 10,000s of people at this very moment were demonstrating and sending out this very message to the Dutch. And standing in Amsterdam, seeing those pictures there, knowing that the message had actually gotten through, that was probably the most rewarding moment I had with Why Europe so far. And it once again reminded me of the immense power such a simple, emotional, and personal message can have. Positive populism is not limited to Europe at all. If you're passionate about the environment, let's not talk about the science behind it. Let's share why sustainability improves our daily lives. If you're passionate about fighting inequality, let's leave the economic theories aside and let's talk about how equality positively affects a single person. Not the society as a whole, not some minorities, how it affects positively a single person. With positive populism, we really get to the core of a political message. We see how this political belief affects us, how it makes us feel. And after 2 years with this approach, I'm convinced that we can do it with every political message. Because if we find no way whatsoever how we can break down a political message, if we find no way whatsoever how a political belief positively affects a single person, I think we should question the political belief. There's one last point I would like to share about why I think positive populism is needed. My generation, maybe young people in general, we're often being called apolitical or not engaged enough. I don't think this is true at all, but I must admit we live in an aging society and it might get more and more difficult for us to get heard. I am convinced that positive populism can be a way for us to be heard more. We are the generation that has been raised with a Facebook timeline, Instagram filters, and Snapchat stories. If there's one generation that is born to spread positively populist messages over social media channels, it's us. We live in a fast-changing and fascinating world. And I believe that a young generation defending values, defending reason, defending common sense is badly needed. Form your own opinions. Never abandon science. Never ignore facts. Never stop critical thinking. But from time to time, if you feel like it, you may want to try a little bit of positive populism. Thank you.